Good day, folks, or should I say,
Hello there. Hello there.
welcome to the Two Maesters. And today we have a very special chat today about Ahsoka, the new TV show on Disney Plus about, guess who? Ahsoka Tano. Also, many other people as well. It's not really about Ahsoka. But hey, we've got our wonderful other host in the studio with us today. Hi, Josh. How you doing?
I'm good, thanks, Morgan. It's a good, lovely day in London, 32 degrees in September, and all those climate deniers are like, well, nothing's happening. Yeah, 32 degrees in September is really fine, isn't it?
Yeah, I got to admit, the walk to the studio today, we're all complaining on the way here. And speaking of all, we have a special guest with us today. Would you like to say hello and introduce yourself?
Hello, I am D. I'm allegedly the resident Star Wars
Expert.
expert, nerd, whatever you want to call it. And yes, it is far, far too hot in London today. I'm not happy.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
And the vending machine's out, so I can't get a cold drink.
Yeah, no, it's a shame. Well, we like to treat our guests, and that's why we have no snacks for you today. Usually we do have snacks.
Hey, last time I was here, I got you guys Snickers, so I was expecting...
I know, but clearly the favour's not been returned, has it?
Disappointing.
Where's our Snickers now, bro?
That's true.
I just said the vending machine's out.
So to start things off, and Dee's ruined this because he's read it already, but Star Wars joke of the day. I think for each one of these Ahsoka review episodes, we've got to start with Star Wars joke of the day. Why is Kylo Ren waiting outside Starbucks for it to open? Because when it opens, he wants to get the First Order. Well, that landed well.
I'm glad I saw that first, because I'd be very sad right now otherwise.
Joke of the day, everyone. Thank you. I'm sure our audience, give a thumbs up if you hate that joke. Thank you. We're going to get lots of thumbs up.
No, you need lots of dislikes.
Well, hey, what's it? Any attention is good attention? What's the saying? Any publicity is good publicity.
Yeah.
There you go. That's why we're going to get cancelled. So, just to start things off, how we're going to do these Ahsoka reviews is we're going to do episode 1 to 4 today, as those are the episodes out. And then, as far as I know, I think there's 8 episodes altogether in the Ahsoka series, or there will be. So we'll have a part 2 where we review episodes 5 to 8 afterwards as well. So let's dive straight in and let's talk about episode 1. So I'll give us a quick.
Can I ask the question first?
Yeah.
No, but yeah, go on.
Have you guys both seen Rebels?
I've seen Rebels, yeah.
Have you seen Rebels?
Yeah. Well, a bit of it. I watched like 2 episodes of season 1 and I couldn't be asked.
So you, I guess, are not emotionally involved in the characters, then you don't know.
Yeah, I think this is sort of my first initial feeling of Ahsoka, that I probably would have been better if I'd seen Rebels. I think Ahsoka's really good, but I think you're right, I would be more involved if I had seen Rebels.
Yeah, it's marketed as like an Ahsoka series, but in effect it is just Rebels season 5.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine watching it and understanding it without having seen Rebels first.
I know, all this talk about, who's that guy they're looking for?
Thrawn.
Not Thrawn.
Ezra.
Ezra, yeah.
Oh, Ezra. So Ezra said he like loves Sabine as a sister, right? But is Sabine like, romantically involved with him? She must be.
She never was in Rebels.
No.
Really?
They had like, he fancied her.
For a very long time.
She rebuffed him like all the time.
Now she doesn't know what she's lost until she's lost it. So, episode 1, let's go through this in a synopsis sort of way. So, 2 fallen Jedi on a hunt for Grand Admiral Thrawn's location, which, as you know, 'cause you've seen Rebels as well, haven't you? Yeah. What were the whales called?
Purgle.
The Purgle, basically, in the final season of Rebels, took him away, along with Ezra, to another galaxy somewhere, which is pretty crazy. And then Ahsoka is hunting for a special device that would reveal the location of Thrawn. But more, she's trying to get it before others do, so that way they can't get to Thrawn. On Hera Syndulla's advice, I'm probably not pronouncing it right, Ahsoka goes to Sabine Wren to actually unlock the device, which is a bit weird, because why is she so intent on finding Thrawn? I guess he's out of sight, out of mind in another galaxy. Why is Ahsoka trying to actually unlock the device at first?
I think she said she's heard whispers. The quote is she's heard whispers of Thrawn's return, which I think relates to Morgan not you, the other Morgan.
I knew that would come up today. Thanks, guys. Well done.
Finding a way to bring him back to the Star Wars galaxy. So she knows that's in progress. It's about to happen. So she wants to stop it, basically.
Yeah, but then what does she stand to do by actually knowing of Thrawn's location?
I don't think...
Unless she wants to go to that other galaxy and actually kill him. And maybe rescue Ezra.
I think it's more to intercept Morgan and... Not you, again. The other Morgan. Intercept Morgan and stop her from bringing him back.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
That's my interpretation, anyway.
Yeah. And then the episode pretty much... This is a very high-level overview. The episode pretty much ends with Shin Hati, who's an absolute... They should call her Shin Hottie. I'm only going to be pushing that button. Shin Hati confronts Sabine Wren, stabs her with a lightsaber after Joel, and runs off with the map device. And it's like, uh-oh.
The one thing that fans have really been picking on is like, before, like if anyone was stabbed with a lightsaber, it was like game over.
Yeah,
it's
what
like
the
now,
hell?
like lightsabers have lost their effectiveness. Like you see throughout like the Kenobi series, someone getting stabbed literally in the stomach with a lightsaber. You see
Reva,
like
yeah.
She got stabbed twice. She got
Yes.
stabbed as a youngling,
Yeah.
survived. Got stabbed as an adult, survived.
And then also the head Inquisitor gets stabbed and survives. And it's like, what happened to lightsabers? Did the manufacturer just reduce the quality? And then, because then if you think about it, you also have like Kylo Ren, but you can kind of get away with it in episode 9 when Rey stabs him in the stomach, that she basically heals him fast enough that he doesn't die. But then fans all over Star Wars universe are like, yeah, but Qui-Gon's like, you couldn't have done that for me.
Yeah, poor Qui-Gon Jinn.
Yeah.
Where
He
was
gets
that
stabbed
for
in the
him?
stomach and then he dies automatically.
Yeah.
Darth Maul, I mean, he got cut in half and he managed to... I still don't know how he survived, but was he in Rebels?
His hatred for Obi-Wan
Yeah.
kept him alive.
Really?
Yeah.
The dark side of the Force is a very
It
strange
does
thing.
cheapen the kind of effectiveness of lightsabers, though. Like,
It does.
It's kind of annoying.
But looking at it from a scientific point of view, it's just effectively cauterize, like it makes the wound, but then it cauterizes it instantly. So as long as you don't hit major organs, I guess it's
But
quite...
the issue is that if you do stab someone, then also, as you say, if you don't hit major organs, it doesn't hurt that much.
Yeah.
But then I think what happens is that the burn would also cause trauma.
Right, okay.
Because it's like if something's burnt, and I think how hot are
They're
lightsabers?
like thousands of...
Yeah,
like, they're really like...
because they
yeah.
can cut through like titanium and other like strong metals. So the heat of the actual weapon would cause trauma because of how hot it is, and would actually bake someone's internal organs. But hey,
Nice, baking someone's internal organs.
Yeah, the one tiny, I guess, argument for it is that Ahsoka came straight away and was able to give her medical attention.
I guess so.
But even
yeah.
that's a very weak argument, and I do think...
yeah. Because like you see Sidious in Revenge of the Sith just hit the Jedi who come to arrest him like one or two times, and it's like, oh, they're down, but then this person who isn't a Jedi Master is still alive.
Yeah, and for Jedi Masters, they die really quickly, don't they?
Yeah.
Oh, I just love Sidious. Isn't he great?
Yeah, I'd rather like if Sabine was losing the battle quite badly, but not stabbed yet, and then Ahsoka arrived mid-battle, then that would have made more sense. But yeah, I mean, Disney are cheapening the lightsabers, which is...
Yeah.
Bloody Disney.
And also on that point, cheapening Order 66, because it's like, how many people skip through that gap? It's like, how many Jedi now have been able to survive Order 66? And it's like, it was supposed to be like, 1 or 2 Jedi have got through, but now it's like 100 Jedi were able to get through. And then you're thinking, how effective was Sidious' plan to begin with if hundreds of Jedi were able to then skip the noose when Order 66 came through?
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess looking at if you had a galactic empire of your own, you'd understand, like the space between planets, like, for example, if you've played Starfield, like just some planets are so remote and far away that like, how could you have the region as the outer rims and then there's the unexplored space of the galaxies? So maybe I could understand. And I think we'll see when Grand Admiral Prawn makes his return that we'll see why the First Order has been allowed to flourish in like the hidden parts of the galaxy and stuff. This is what I've read online as theories, so maybe not.
Yeah, but if you think about it, there were about 10,000 Jedi before Order 66. If 99% of 99% of them got killed, that still leaves about 100.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like you say, if they're in the outer rims, if they're in the unknown regions and stuff, like they're not going to be necessarily in the line of fire from the clones.
But what about the sacred Jedi texts? I should have got that sound one. So some memorable moments, and I mean, we've got to talk about the new characters because, of course, you have the Rebels characters that you guys are familiar with. So Sabine Wren, who's a Force-sensitive Mandalorian.
Potentially Force sensitive.
Yeah, I know. She's pretty bad at being a Jedi so far.
She got shut down by Huyang quite
Yeah,
viciously.
yeah. Oh, Huyang, he is sassy. Voiced by David Tennant, who plays Doctor Who as well, which we will do a Doctor Who episode at some point, despite my comments in the Star Wars.
dislike of it.
Yeah. But Baylan Skoll and Shin Hati, I think these two steal every scene they're in, because Shin Hati, or should I say Shin Hati, wow, I've got such a crush on her. But Baylan Skoll, played by Ray Stevenson. Yeah.
The late, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, who's in, as we were spoken about him before, actually, who's in Rome.
Yeah, and also like the Thor films as well, as one of like Thor's companions.
Yeah, great act.
And even like he was in like a Punisher film, like was like straight to DVD.
Oh
like,
no,
yeah,
that's
it was
never
like
a good
before
sign.
like it was actually a very, very good film. It was just before like Disney bought Marvel, so it's like 100% full on gore. And like if you've seen like the Punisher TV series, it's gorier than that.
Okay.
So if you've seen the Netflix one, he goes in like full on. Like, you know, when you have the guy that he takes basically, have either of you two seen the Punisher TV series?
Oh yeah, I've watched
I've seen
first season.
yeah.
You know that his friend, where he basically drags his face and he scars it. In the Ray Stevenson film, he basically puts the guy in like a meat grinder, his face in a meat grinder.
Jesus.
So literally he has no more skin on his face. So then he tries to go to like a plastic surgeon, and the plastic surgeon's like, there's nothing I can do. So he basically just stabs them, and then he's like literally has to wear a mask, and then sometimes he removes his face, and that's what Jigsaw's supposed to look like.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Yeah.
that is pretty graphic.
Before Disney bought like the Marvel series, some of those films, especially the Punisher ones, were very gory.
Yeah, well, I guess that's why maybe it went straight to DVD. Maybe it's just too gory for cinema. Like, just trying to think. For example, have you ever seen Hostel?
Oh, yeah.
That's incredibly gory. I don't know if that was ever in cinema.
It was. I saw Hostel
really?
2 in the cinema.
Oh,
It was
Hostel 2
it
is
was
even more gory.
intense.
Yeah,
Very, very. And I was like really young as well. I was like 16 or something.
yeah.
It just like disturbed me for like years.
This is such an un-Disney conversation, you know. You wouldn't see this much gore. Like, literally lightsabers, you don't even see... Actually, mind you, I mean, Revenge of the Sith, literally watching Anakin get burnt to a crisp. I was surprised that was still a 12A, to be honest, Revenge of the Sith, because of that. But anyway, going back to Ahsoka, which doesn't have all this goriness in it, or not yet, anyway. So, yeah, Baylan Skoll, I think he steals every scene. He's really cool. And I do love that quote at the beginning, you know, when the New Republic ship with transporting Morgan Elsbeth as a prisoner, they come across this ship that says they're Jedi, and they foolishly just let them on. Like, honestly, what idiots? Like,
Yeah, I think they're just arrogant and too sure of themselves. Like,
yeah, this
and-
New Republic.
Yeah, and they're also demilitarizing as well, which is really
that is one of the
stupid,
biggest things that fans really pick up on, and it's glad that you picked up on that, D, is that they always have this annoying ploy of like, oh, we don't need a military force, we're better than that, we're more elevated than that. And like even in canon or in like the expanded universe, it's like you don't know what's coming up next. It's like if the Avengers were like, you know what, we defeated Loki, let's disband, we saved the world, and then didn't come back again, and then something bad happens, and they're like, oh my days, how did this bad thing happen? Well, because you demilitarized.
Unfortunately, I think that is kind of realistic, because that does happen in real life. For example, you know, in Western Europe, because there hasn't been a major war fought here since World War II, all this stuff of Ukraine, a lot of Western militaries aren't actually ready if there was going to be another war, because we've just scaled down so much that why would you keep mass conscription in place, for example, if you're in peacetime? It's kind of like, it's literally, this is what Bane says to Batman. It's like, oh, it seems victory has defeated you.
And you can kind of see it. And like one of the books that is canon is that the First Order infiltrates the New Republic and stuff. They might even show it in the TV series. They start to manipulate it. Like they start to do stuff like one of the books. So in the original like canon, in the original like expanded universe, after A New Hope, the galaxy all finds out like Darth Vader is Luke and Leia's father. So the whole galaxy finds out straight afterwards.
Yeah.
But in like canon, Disney canon, they don't tell anybody. So it's like when Leia further down the line, they might do this in a TV series, was in one of the books, she's running for Supreme Chancellor. And an agent of the First Order releases the information that herself and Luke are children of Darth Vader, who is a monster that has been depicted by the Republic, and the First Order contributes to do that. So then she then loses the election and has to then pull out of being Supreme Chancellor. So then I think one of the things that, to G's point, is that the First Order has its hands in the Republic from its inception, and hopefully we can see more of this as the series develops.
That whole time, Darth Sidious is on Exegol going, I love democracy. Oh, I just love the quotes.
Yeah. They do say in Ahsoka, I think it is episode 1, where there's like loads of employees that were part of the Empire, like every level of the New Republic.
Yeah.
'Cause otherwise it wouldn't function anymore.
Exactly, and you see that in Mandalorian, don't you? The what's that program called? The where they're basically getting employees from the Galactic Empire just to work. What's the word though? You saw in Mandalorian with Dr. Penn Pershing and who the other character was that betrays him. I can't remember.
Oh, the girl. Yeah. Short girl. Yeah.
So key thing is like going back to Baylan Skoll and Shin Hati. They're not Sith, are they? They're fallen Jedi. Because remember, he says, "You're right about one thing. We're not Jedi," and then he sabers that old dude, which is a pretty cool scene.
Yeah. So Baylan was a Jedi Knight. Survived Order 66. Shin Hati, she seems too young to be a survivor unless she was a youngling or something, maybe.
Yeah.
But she's got the Padawan braid.
She does, yeah. Which is interesting. Where's Sabine's Padawan braid? But that's it. Ahsoka really doesn't. I mean, to be fair, like we'll get to episode 4, but well, she's done the big no-no.
To be fair, like Ahsoka isn't really a Jedi anyway. She left the Order during Clone Wars.
Yeah.
So she doesn't follow, like, basically it's a religion, right? She doesn't follow their religion.
Yeah, I do find that cool actually, because you can have Jedi outside of the Jedi Order, and I know it's not canon anymore, but the whole idea of the Grey Jedi that, you know, looking up their sayings online, so the Sith would say, "There's no peace, there's only power." The Jedi would say, "There's no peace, there's only serenity," and then the Grey would say, "There's no darkness without the light, there's no light without the darkness, but evil must not be allowed to thrive." Yeah. Really cool.
Grey Jedi is a contentious topic amongst the fans, apparently.
Yeah, exactly. Is there really any middle ground between good and evil? You can't really have balance. But then again, is there balance in the Force after Anakin helps execute Order 66? But we're going deep into Star Wars lore there, that's for sure. Any other key memorable moments from episode 1 you want to bring up?
I think one of the things that's key is that, like, even throughout the whole series, it kind of feels like that they're trying to stop Thrawn, as if, like, if you've seen Rings of Power, like, Thrawn is Sauron. Like he's, like, the key thing that they know that if he then comes back into play could bring about the end of the New Republic. Mm-hmm. And I think one thing it took getting used to was, like, and probably the same for you, D, is that watching the voices for the characters in Rebels and then transferring that over to new actors for some of them and, like, new voices.
Yeah, in some cases the same actor.
Was kind of, like, weird. And, like, I think because, like, Rosario Dawson does look like Ahsoka, I was like, okay, then. And I knew it was coming. I knew that she was playing her. And, like, fans have been clamoring it for years. And for, like, 4 years, they've been asking for it. But then others, it's like, it's going to take a while to get used to.
Yeah. I do like it because as Grand Admiral Thrawn, is he played by the same guy?
Same voice actor, yeah.
Oh, that's good.
They could have CGI'd him a bit better, I think, from the trailers. He doesn't look quite as menacing.
Mm.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see what he's like, because he might be, is he going to be like, you know, what makes a good series or movie is a good villain. I'm really keen to see what he's like. So I love this Baylan Skoll. I'm really a big fanboy for him and Shin Hati for obvious reasons. But because the fact that some of the stuff he says, I mean, okay, we're sort of delving into episode 2 and 3, but when Morgan Elsbeth says they should kill Ahsoka, and rather than doing the normal Sith thing, which is like, and saying something really malicious and evil, he's like, it's a shame. There's so few of us left. And Morgan Elsbeth's like, what?
Sentimental, are we?
Yeah, exactly. He's good. I really like him. There's something...
I like the Star Wars is a lot of, like, Luke is like the white, like Palpatine, Vader. It's very black and white villains.
Yeah.
And a Baylan Skoll is a human. Like, in Survival 66, there's no Jedi Order left. There's nothing. he's more. He obviously leans towards the dark side, but he's still a rounded individual with sentiments, and he wants to do his version of what he thinks is good for the galaxy.
Yeah, and like some people weren't really full on like we love the Empire, we'll march to its tune, but it was like the galaxy is full of chaos. Order must be brought to the galaxy. And some of them people who joined from the Republic to the Empire were like, well, the Empire is a form of order. And like I think like for him it's kind of like we need some form of order and a system of government that does so. Because like to your point, D, the fact that the New Republic is now coming into it, we've even seen like in actual life that democracy can be crippled and democracy can also be corrupted, manipulated. Yeah. So then it's also like his stance is like, no, we need a form of authority to keep things in balance, because if there isn't, then anarchy just goes on reign. And you see that in like the Mandalorian TV series, like there's sections of the galaxy which the New Republic isn't there yet. They're literally being run by warlords and
pirate kings,
or even like the Hutts and their cartel as well. And it's like, if the Empire was there, some people are dying because the Empire isn't there.
Yeah. I don't think Baylan Skoll's aligned to the Empire, though, personally. I think he wants Ezra. And I think he wants a way into the World Between Worlds, which we'll come to when we address other episodes, I think.
Oh, wow. Okay. We'll see about that. Okay, so speaking about episodes, episode 2, quick synopsis. Baylan and Shin take the map to Ellsworth, which reveals Thrawn's location. Sabine Wren is recovering from being lightsabered by Shin Hati and helps Ahsoka to find out the location from the droid. The droid reveals that there's something to do with Corellia, which is a big shipyard. On Corellia, Ahsoka and Hera confront a businessman and pro-Empire dock workers. Ahsoka fights Inquisitor Marok, but he escapes along with Hattie, etc., with a hype drive. Hera attached the tracking device to their ship. Sabine Wren is then ready to become Ahsoka's apprentice, and quite an emotional moment, despite Ahsoka being very like distant and cold with her at first.
One quick thing, I think Han Solo might be from Corellia.
I think he is.
Yeah. That's and like Corellia is like this. So you know how you've got Coruscant as like the capital world. You've got like Alderaan, which is like where Leia's from, is like an old world full of nobility, and it's like the business capital of like the galaxy is Corellia, and it was also really cool to see in that episode that there are probably people who were employed by the Empire, who had jobs, who had security for their families. Now the Empire's gone and the Republic doesn't want all these warships anymore. They're like, well, the Republic, I had a stable job. I had a path of employment and development. I had a job potentially for my kids. They could take over after me. Now you've taken that away. How do you expect me to support myself? How do you expect me to support your cause if now I'm out of a job?
Yeah, I could see that. And that happens in sort of real life. Like, that people have a stake in society. When there's a revolution, everything gets tipped upwards and people lose their place. What I found interesting though is the businessman in it, who played quite a funny character, because remember when they're being arrested at the end and Ahsoka says, no, these weren't Empire supporters, they were just greedy, like that. I think she was just referring to, maybe the dock workers were secret Empire supporters because they were like, for the Empire, or long live the Empire. But the businessman's just like wanted to make some money, really. It's probably just paid off. Like, he doesn't really care about politics.
Yeah.
Which was interesting. One thing we didn't mention in episode 1 is the awkward reunion between Ahsoka and Sabine Wren. I love the awkwardness of that.
I didn't like it because at the end, I mean, I don't know if you've seen the last few episodes, but at the end of Rebels, it left at a certain point. And there's a time jump between that and Ahsoka, and there's no hint of them, like Ahsoka trading Sabine. There's nothing.
Oh, really? So that wasn't actually in Rebels?
No, so it was new for everybody. So it was really odd. Like, they haven't really filled in the gaps, I think, as well as I'd like.
Oh dear. Disney.
I love that cup scene though. You win this round.
Yeah, that was great. That's the best. I hope they got credited.
Zooms in on the cup.
I hope we got credited.
I would have really hoped it would just move on its own just afterwards, just to piss around.
Just a little laugh. So some cool moments in episode 2. God, it was so long ago that we watched it. I mean, I think that whole fight scene between Marok and Ahsoka was pretty cool. Was he in Rebels at all as an Inquisitor?
He's brand new.
What kind of alien is he? Because although this is jumping to episode 4, he seems like a gaseous.
No,
being.
I know what he is, but I'll wait till episode 4.
Is it? Oh, okay. Okay, we'll wait to episode 4. You're going to leave the spoiler for a couple minutes away. Okay. So I actually had a question there, you know, are there continuity issues with Rebels? And you pointed out that, you know, there was it that Sabine Wren wasn't supposed to be Ahsoka's apprentice?
Well,
or?
Sabine Wren was getting trained by Kanan before he died.
Okay.
And then she just did her own thing as a Mandalorian, basically. She wielded the Darksaber for a while. But there was but Ahsoka wasn't around. Like, she got pulled out of the War Between Worlds by Ezra, like, in late season 4, I think, was it?
Yeah.
So Ahsoka wasn't in the last season and a half of Rebels anyway. So basically, she was missing for roughly just less than half of it.
Oh, fair enough. Okay. Yeah, because the only bit, apart from the first 2 episodes of the first series, I was just on YouTube watching her Ahsoka fight Darth Vader in it. That was a really cool scene. Like, Annie, I won't leave you. And then, you know, then you will die.
Not this time.
Yeah.
You will die.
And he turns on his lightsaber.
I think that was one of my favorite episodes of just Rebels in general, because you had the 3 Inquisitors who were there. You had Darth Maul who was there as well. And the fact that the 3 Inquisitors were like, you know what, we can take Darth Maul.
And they get messed up.
They get
messed up really easily, like really quickly.
Wait, can I swear? I shouldn't swear.
It's okay, I'll beat that. Cool.
And I think another thing is like the fact that Maul wants nothing to do with Vader.
Well, he hates the Sith because they destroyed his life.
They did. And like fans might not know, like what happens after he leaves with his brother, Savage Opress, is that Sidious goes to his homeworld and wipes out the Night Sisters, which are the people who trained him and his brother, and also Sarge Ventress as well. And also, I think he almost wiped out his people on that planet.
Wait, Night Sisters, is that what Morgan Elsworth is part of?
Yeah, she is.
What? Who are the Night Sisters?
So they are basically, you could call them Force witches, who basically manipulate the dark side.
Force witches. I hope they have a better name for that.
No, it is
basically
Force.
It's basically Force sorcery that they use, and it's a form of the dark side that Sidious loves, because Sidious is like what happens with Star Wars is that you split the Sith into like Darth Vader, which is like more of a warrior stance, and then you've got like the Sith who are more focused on the Force. So like Sidious was really focused on that. So he went to the Night Sisters and was like, I would like an apprentice. So they provided him with Darth Maul. And then from like a child, he trained up Darth Maul to be his apprentice. But his actual master, what's his master called again? Sidious's master.
Plagueis.
Thank you. Plagueis thought that he was just being trained as a Sith assassin. So it's funny enough that in the Phantom Menace, when Darth Maul is getting chopped in half, Sidious is also at the same time killing his master, Darth Plagueis.
No, right, but they don't actually show that.
It was actually going to be in the film, but then George Lucas pulled it out. It would have been amazing to have Plagueis.
Oh, really? Was it going to be in the film?
Yeah, Plagueis was actually supposed to be in the films, but then he pulled it out at the last minute, not to kind of like distract people. But yeah, like canon, Plagueis gets killed around the same time Darth Maul dies. So then Sidious is like stuck with, he has no master and no apprentice. So that's where he then runs and corrupts Count Dooku. And like Count Dooku is just a stopgap. But yeah, so he goes to the Night Sisters to get an apprentice. And then like Darth Maul, he believes is the perfect apprentice that he has.
And Darth Maul was actually a Sith, as in the race of Sith, yeah.
No, not the race of Sith, but he was raised as a Sith and taught the religion of the Sith.
Yeah, I know what you mean, but he's actually the Sith species.
No, he's a Zabrak. He's a Zabrak.
Oh, right, but
Yeah.
there is no Sith species. Really?
A Sith is just, it's like a religion.
In the Old Republic, there was a Sith species, but that's died out like thousands of years ago. And some fans aren't too happy about that whole era, but I think because now you've got a younger generation that they really do love their era. So there is a Sith species which the fallen Jedi joined up with and became like a Sith empire. But then that's like way like 3,000 or 4,000 years before what's currently happening.
But I thought that wasn't a species, that was more a paradigm, way of thinking kind of thing. Because the Sith came from, because obviously there was, before the Jedi, there was like the Jedi, like with the apostrophe thing.
Yeah.
And then the ones that leant towards the dark side drifted away from the Jedi and became the Sith Empire, like thousands of years ago.
The main issue is like there's universe depiction of it, and it's like, what is Disney going to decide to do? So like in the grander universe, there was a species of Darksiders who were proficient in it, and they had developed their own form of like empire. And then the Jedi itself had a great schism where they split. So before, as to your point, they would study both sides of the Force.
Right.
But then one side who mostly focused on the dark side of the Force started to become corrupted. So then there was an actual Jedi civil war where they fought each other. And then instead of killing the Darksiders, they sent them into exile. And then this inert species that has the Force, the dark side of the Force, and very proficient in it, which some people said it's the leading of the Force that this happened. These fallen Jedi met with that Sith species, and then they intermarried and then called themselves the Sith species.
Oh yeah, they got it on.
And then they developed like their own form of like galaxy, and they call it like that period until they meet the Republic, the golden era of the Sith.
Oh right, okay.
Millions of Sith species mixing with having the blood of the Dark Jedi who then left. So you've got people like in lore like Naga Sadow, who was more of like a hybrid between the Sith species and also the Dark Jedi who moved to their home planet, which was Korriban. They were able to then develop an empire, and then like they then attacked the Republic in the old era of Star Wars universe. But I think the main issue is like the fans are like, so you've got that Disney. What are you going to do with it? What part of it is canon? What part isn't?
Yeah, but it's like they've because when Disney took over, they made a lot of stuff no longer canon.
Yeah.
I think including Thrawn, or at least including him, the heir to the Empire book.
The book series. Yeah.
But now they're like, okay, well, we'll just chop and change it and take some inspiration.
The funny thing is, there was a trilogy of books by Timothy Zahn, but he has actually been commissioned. And he has written 3 new books.
I've read them, yes, yeah.
And these are canon because they've been commissioned.
Yeah, you said actually.
I haven't read them, but they're good.
They are really good. I think one of the things that they do is that he's not as malicious as he was in like the books, like the original books. So like in the original books, he basically was constantly trying to kidnap Leia's and Han Solo's children, so that he could have his own form of like Darksiders, because there's very similar parallels. So Admiral Thrawn, so this can also lead into later discussions. Admiral Thrawn, similar to the canon, came to the Republic because there was this alien race which was going from another galaxy. Yep. Was coming to attack the Chiss species, which is his species, and they live on the edge of galactic space. And they used to be part of the wider empire, but something happened to cause like a huge fracture in the galaxy. So they generally don't want to get involved with the rest of the galaxy, so which is the main galaxy, and they have their own corner of the galaxy, and they call themselves the Chiss Ascendancy. So he goes to, in the Legends continuity, he goes to Palpatine and says that there's this alien race, which is called the Yuzhong Vong. They're going to attack us. And then once they've attacked us, they are then going to come for you. And that was part of the reason of the development of the Death Star, was to have a weapon to defeat these alien species who were actually resistant to the Force.
That's interesting.
So in canon, it's more of like, the species has changed the name, so it's called the Grisk, which is mentioned in the books. And the Ascendancy have this policy of, we will not be the aggressor. We will always shoot second. Because I think they realized that in the past they'd aligned with the Sith Empire and they'd lost a lot. And also there was a huge cataclysm, which they don't explain what took place, that keeps them separate from the rest of the space. And even their own space, they can't use hyperdrives to go through. They actually have to have pathfinders in that area of the galaxy, because
they're called the Skywalkers, aren't they? I think
they're literally called the Skywalkers.
Yes. They are. And like the reason is because the whole galaxy, something happened to mess it all up. So you can't use just a hyperdrive. You actually need someone who has the Force to tap into it to tell you, go this way and then this way and then that way because everything's been messed up. So the actual hyperlanes have been destroyed.
Right.
So then he was exiled because he basically shot first to defeat the Grisks, and then he then gets picked up by the Empire and then works with them. And basically, one of the best scenes in the books is when he meets Sidious, and Sidious is like, okay, then I know of your people, because Sidious has like got all the old texts from the Old Republic. He's been able to sneak into the Jedi Temple to take several contraband books and read through those. Like the Book of the Sith is another key one that he has.
Contraband books.
Like he basically asked Thrawn, like, who is your loyalty to? Because Thrawn gets inducted into the Imperial Empire and gets a rank. So he's like, who is your loyalty to? And he said, it's to the Empire and to the Chiss Ascendancy. And he says, if you then have to choose between one of the two, and then Thrawn says, when that time comes, that time will come. But my loyalty is to the Empire and the Chiss Ascendancy.
That's quite ballsy to say.
Yeah, and like, I was thinking, like, that isn't the right thing to say to Sidious, who's literally a psychopath, a murderous psychopath. But I think he just realized like how powerful and what the mind that Thrawn has, that he could actually utilize it.
And I guess that's why they've let an alien into the Galactic Empire and in the organization of it, because it's a xenophobic organization. There's no aliens in it.
You see in the books the amount of times he receives xenophobia, and like throughout his rising to the ranks. And I think one cool thing also within the books is that he has this like weird relationship with Darth Vader, because he actually met Darth Vader when he was he was Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah, I read this, that they fought together in like the Clone Wars.
Because the actual Grisk species were working with the Separatists, or trying to work with the Separatists. So the Grisk were trying to manipulate the Separatists and had potentially taken Padme hostage. So he worked with Thrawn to then free Padme, and in return they gave like a hyperdrive which they had lost, the Chiss Ascendancy had lost. So Anakin gives them like I think it was one, those hyperdrive loop relays that they have where they attach their ship to.
Oh, the ring things.
The ring things. He gives that to the Chiss Ascendancy as like a thank you for helping to save Padme. And then it's weird because like you have Darth Vader there with Admiral Thrawn, and Darth Vader's like, I've heard of you from the Empire. And he said, oh yes, and do you, and he kind of like have a conversation like, oh, do you know Anakin? And he's like, oh yes, Anakin was like a good, strong warrior. And it's like, Thrawn knows that Darth Vader is Anakin, and Darth Vader knows Thrawn knows, but if Thrawn says anything, Vader would then kill him. But he's like, you know what, I'm just going to leave it there.
Some awkward conversation. Thrawn's like, wow, this guy's really lost his nuts, hasn't he? He's lost his marbles. Yeah, I was thinking that, because they must have had an interesting conversation. Like Darth Vader's like, what do you think of my new look? And Thrawn's like, strange.
I know. I think it was like, he spoke to the Emperor about Anakin. He's like, yes. And he relayed to the Emperor, like, the importance of Anakin. And then Vader was like, okay, then. So he basically asked him questions on Anakin, and Thrawn was like, I kind of know that you are Anakin, but I'm just going to say it like he must have been a great general, a good guy, and it's a shame that he's now dead type thing.
Is it ass kissing? I don't know.
There's a few times where Vader, like in the comics, where Vader references Anakin. It's like, reports are correct. Anakin was the greatest general in the Republic.
Oh God, just tooting his own horn, honestly.
You know that meme where Obama's putting the medal on Obama?
I haven't seen that. That's good. Or just Trump anytime he like self-gratifies himself. So going back to episode 2, I'm glad because we needed some background on who Thrawn was and why is he allowed to work in the Empire. So that was good. Going back to episode 2, last thing about it is, some fans were actually critical of episode 1 and 2. I remember episode 1 and 2 came out at the same time, so you could watch them. But they were like, good. It was good, but they're too busy trying to like inform viewers who hadn't seen Rebels, because in there, they're talking about Ezra, they're talking about what's happened, who Thrawn was, and like how they know each other. Do you feel that way? That episode 1 and 2 were a bit playing catch up.
I feel like if I hadn't watched Rebels, I wouldn't have had enough information, to be honest.
Yeah.
I felt satisfied. I mean, I've learned with Star Wars that a lot of the storytelling, a lot of the plot holes, I just take everything with a pinch of salt now. I'm like, of course, yeah. Why not? They can now fly with force powers back into the spaceship. Like Leia
don't remember. Somehow Palpatine returned.
I should have got that.
But like Hera, like I saw her as a child, like in Clone Wars, like, and you see her.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, you've seen her grow up. Oh, that's emotional. Yeah, and she's, where's the dad? Where's her
What's
partner?
his name? The dad, the warrior dude. He was leading the rebellion on her home planet, like during Clone Wars.
Gone.
No, they do meet. They meet in Rebels, don't they? Because they have a fractured relationship. Yeah.
Okay, but he's not dead. He's
not dead.
They're just separated. Wow, so too realistic, just like my family. So moving swiftly on before we dig up some trauma.
Wait, do you want to play the laughing noise?
Deep. So episode 3. So quick synopsis time. Hera Syndulla attempts to get the New Republic's leadership to send a military force after Baylan and Shin, and typically, like always in democracy, there's always the naysayers like, oh, blah, 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 it's going to cost a lot. It's awkward in peacetime. A great scene here where she shames one of the senators, like, so were you involved in the fighting in the Galactic Civil War? And he's like, no. And she's like, oh, so you just, wait until he comes out on top. Like, she put him in his place. Damn. She's got fire.
Yeah, she got fire, but not much sway by the looks of it.
Yeah,
she didn't get what she needed to get.
It's annoying. This is politicians for you, man. They make the decisions, but they're not the ones down in the trenches, bro. You get me?
Yeah. Apparently that's Senator, the one that was a bit of a annoying person.
Which one?
The one that the one you talked about that she said like waiting to see who comes out on top.
Oh yeah.
Apparently he's
in Rebels, isn't he, or Clone Wars?
Apparently he's the father of someone that appears later on who isn't a good guy.
Oh, that would explain it. I bet he's
he could be probably like undercover First Order agent,
trying to undermine everything.
Remember that council at the end of Mando? I think his son is in that.
Wow.
Yeah, Shadow Council.
Ah, that explains a lot then. Oh dear. Well,
if I remember rightly, anyway. Don't quote me on that, anyone.
So nice. So, and then going back to the synopsis, Ahsoka proceeds with Sabine's training, which is just great. Like the cup scene as well, where she tries to she stares at the cup, and you just think something's going to happen, but it just doesn't. And the camera shot of the cup just there, like as if it's smiling, but it's just a cup. Like, I hope they gave credit. There was a credit in the thing, like cast, like who plays the cup. It's like
cup starring as cup.
Cup as cup. It's like if you see the Barbie movie, I thought the credits in that were really funny. It's like Barbie played by Margot Robbie. Barbie played by Barbie. Or Ken. That was hilarious.
Just for timeline wise, because I've forgotten. As she already declined to train Grogu at this point.
Yeah, I think that's another thing with me is that
how does
where
the
does
Mandalorian
this fit into the Mandalorian?
Yeah,
I think
it's obviously after she first confronts Morgan Elsbeth. The episode where the Mandalorian first meets Ahsoka, because she was in
mid-season
prison.
2, was it? I think.
Yeah, so I guess it's at least after that in Mandalorian, but I don't know if it's after season 3 of Mandalorian. And that's a question I was going to ask you guys. Actually, do you think a Mandalorian's going to make a guest appearance in this?
Thing is, I kind of hope not.
Yeah,
it kind of feels like they're then pandering to the fans. Oh, let's bring in the Mandalorian. Let's bring in someone from the Mandalorian who's big into this to kind of like spruce up and make this the season better. But then you've got enough people in the season, especially bringing in Thrawn later on, which we saw in the trailer. That should be enough. But if you then need someone from the Mandalorian, it just shows that the writing isn't enough to
exactly like the Book of Boba Fett.
Basically 2 episodes of Mando just sandwiched into it.
So like, oh well, this is crap, let's throw in the Mandalorian to spruce things up a bit.
No, there's enough high profile characters in here, especially if you're a proper fan. If you've seen proper fan, sorry Morgan, if you've seen Rebels.
That seemed appropriate.
That all these characters, and that they have a big part to play in the galaxy. So I don't think you need more than that.
Okay, so going back to the synopsis, Ahsoka, Sabine, and Huyang pursue Baylan, Shin, and Morgan to the planet. I felt like this episode was very action orientated. It was cool to see the training. I guess that is a good bit in it as well, but a lot of action in the space. I thought it was a little bit cringy. Ahsoka quickly putting on a spacesuit, which is probably notoriously quite hard to put on, at least in real life anyway. She then goes out onto the ship and then starts deflecting and lasering and using a lightsaber to fight literally star aircraft.
And they just have shot on the other side of the ship, maybe the side she wasn't standing on.
Yeah. Also, like when they did hit the ship, the guns were so low caliber on those fighters that they didn't really do any dents, did they?
No, I don't.
No.
Yeah, and even the noises from them were like pew 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 rather than.
Was there still shields active on that ship? I can't remember. They were kind of dead in the water.
Does it matter? Do you really think Disney are gonna like these plot holes? Like, come on, Leia flying back into a ship.
Yeah.
Oh goodness.
Like I could obviously like it's a universe that has a certain physics, but I like the physics to at least be consistent.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that was a little bit cringe, that bit. I think a super cringe moment, but I think it maybe was deliberate, and I have appreciation for it, is when the Ahsoka and Sabine are heading towards the big hyperdrive thing, and Morgan Elsbeth's like, prepare the turbo lasers. She's like, I have something I can finish. Prepare the turbo. Like, it just sounded like so niche, classic villain thing to say from like the 1980s or 1990s movies. Like, I thought that was a little bit cringe, but kind of funny. Like, I appreciate it. Prepare the turbo. Why do I find that so funny? Hugh Yang. What do you think of him in terms of his teaching methods? Is he tough but good, or just? I mean,
was he meant to be a teacher? I know you're like in.
He makes lightsabers, doesn't he?
Guides the younglings to make lightsabers. I don't know his role in the Jedi Order apart from that. I know he's been around for like centuries.
Oh, right, super old.
Yoda.
Wow, okay. But what do you think? Do you think he's a good teacher? Do you think he's motivating Sabine Wren with negative
I think they're best
enforcement?
mates, yeah.
Yeah.
Sure they love each other.
I love their dialogue, like Sabine Wren. Like, I think maybe it's episode 4 or something. I can't. Oh yeah, it's like. Oh, we'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, their dialogue's great between each other. I think he's doing negative reinforcement. You just break down their self-esteem until you build them back up. Even though he's just, I don't think
hopefully he's doing that.
He's not actually training her though. It's actually Ahsoka's responsibility. So he's just really being quite critical.
Yeah, he's just brutally honest and hasn't got that any sense of tact in his programming.
Yeah. I mean, I love him. I think he's a great character, and just his voice. And I really like in Ahsoka. I really like how they've done the droids. For once, I think the droids are really cool and interesting. Like the assassin droids, for example, their voices. They look menacing, and like the self-destruct thing they do in episode 1 as well, which was, I mean,
it's a bit OTT.
Yeah, it's very OTT.
It's basically nuclear bomb.
Yeah, that's just eviscerated half a planet. But yeah, I love the way they do droids, and so I think they've done it quite well. I mean, the droids in Phantom Menace, Clone Wars were still pretty good, but then they got more and more too comical in the way of their voices.
Roger.
Yeah, Roger.
I think they're too good for this era though, because the Empire's fallen. Like when the Roman Empire fell, like technology and society just collapsed and it regressed like hundreds of years. They shouldn't be technologically advancing still anymore because it's kind of in chaos, right?
But I think like when the Roman Empire fell, it was because of like invaders who couldn't care less about continuing like the legacy of the Romans. So like when you had like the Goths, the Visigoths, the Vandals, you had the Alans as well coming in. They didn't care about writing system. They didn't care about Latin. They didn't care about aqueducts. So they all then fell to the wayside. But I think, especially with what the program, the New Republic has done, which is bring in all of the Old Republic people. And I think we talked about this in a previous episode, like it's similar to what the USSR and America did after World War II. Let's grab up all
Operation
these
Paperclip,
German and Nazi scientists. So they've probably done that and been like, you know what, we'll do that. And probably like some of these like gangs and pirate kings are like, you know what, let's grab ourselves some Empire scientists who can then develop weapons for us. And it's probably the same thing like when a big, like powerful country falls.
Yeah.
Like people are like, you know what, let's grab this Soviet scientist. He can make X, Y, and Z for us and then continue the projects that they had before.
Yeah.
That's a fair point, actually, yeah.
And I guess that's why there's so many issues with democracy being undermined in the New Republic, because they've got all these former Imperial guys. It's like, oh, what a surprise, they betrayed us. It's like, yeah, I do find that quite amusing. And again, Balin is literally in episode 3 for a few seconds at the end. It's like, we must hunt the Jedi. But like his brooding stare, he steals every scene. I don't know what it is about him. Maybe it's his amazing beard. Like his beard's really
Is that
good.
the scene at the end where he looks up at the sky and sees like
Yeah.
like a Purgle in the distance?
Yeah, was there a Purgle in the distance? Oh wow, okay. I didn't know.
I didn't see that. You can thank YouTube for that.
Thank you, YouTube. What would we do without it? Yeah, very cool. Any other memorable moments from episode 3? It's a bit hard to remember when they get all jangled
half
up.
Of it was basically half of it was trading, half of it was space battle.
Yeah,
But you get to see the hyper ring, I guess.
yeah. The hyperring was cool. What else was cool about? I guess like it harkens back to so many sort of Star Wars-esque things. Like there's always got to be like a space battle or a dogfight in a Star Wars movie. And I love the camera angle where it's like, for example, looking at Shin Hati, in the like cockpit like this. It's like very typical Star Wars. Like in episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, where they're fighting above Coruscant. Anakin wearing the same type of head brace as well.
Yeah, true.
Yeah,
a little bit of nostalgia, like the camera
it
shots.
Goes back to like the first Star Wars film, like when Darth Vader's like, "I have you now."
Yeah,
that element that they always love to have in Star Wars.
Yeah, it's very typical sort of camera shot, isn't it? And then there's always a big ship like the Millennium Falcon or like the one Ahsoka's. Get on the guns. There's always a scene of them scrambling to the guns.
The ship. Yeah.
Like pew, 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 in these seats. Like very typical Star Wars. And I guess that's how they bring back some nostalgia without doing what The Force Awakens did, which is confuse nostalgia with just copying the exact story.
That was my favourite film out of the sequel.
Yeah, I mean, I actually...
Funny enough, it is everyone's favourite.
Yeah, exactly. But there's a difference between nostalgia and just copying the storyline of something else. Again.
But I like the character development between Ahsoka and Sabine. Like, Ahsoka let Sabine do her own thing. And that's when they started actually like winning the battle. Before Ahsoka was trying to control her and telling her she's rusty, that anticipate the next move and try and teach her a lesson in the mid-battle, and she wasn't receptive to that.
Well, imagine it was Hu Yang telling her, like, you can't shoot. You're the worst shooter I've seen.
And I think also, like, there's probably even self-doubt within Ahsoka. Like, her training methods have probably come from Anakin, and realizing that Anakin then became Darth Vader. And then she's probably thinking, is some of the methods that I learned from him wrong? And I think also, like, for her, she became a Jedi a lot older. So, like, did any of you see, like, the Clone Wars film?
But I thought she was too young to be, for, like, normal sense, too young to be a Padawan at that point. But she was quite Force attuned, so they gave her... And she was also quite brash. So they gave her to Anakin, so they can both, like, temper each other, kind of.
Yeah. And I think the thing for her was also that she was very much like Anakin. Like, throughout the Clone Wars, he'd be like, you remember Obi-Wan saying, Anakin, don't do this? Anakin does exactly what Obi-Wan says he shouldn't do. And then you then see that Ahsoka then continues that on. It's like not listening to her Jedi Master at all.
Yeah. But there was it's a bit of a tangent, but a great episode where she does that and doesn't listen to Anakin. And her squadron of clone troopers get killed.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
How'd she live with
I
that?
think, like, that's one of the things I think fans loved about the Clone Wars was that there were like full-on adult moments. Like, I think one of them was one of the Jedi in the Clone Wars who had seen visions of the end of the Jedi and had seen visions of Order 66 and was waiting for it to happen. So I think it was like Anakin was there with Ahsoka, and he was basically purposely getting the clones killed.
Like Krell?
Right. Okay.
He was purposely sending them in missions, not caring about their lives, getting them killed, so then to further enlarge the war. So then it would then continue, because he said, I had visions of like Order 66. He didn't really say it. He says, I've seen visions and I've seen how this war is going to end. And basically they thought he was just like a separatist madman, but no, it was like he was seeing visions of Order 66 and was like, I'm going to do what Sidious wants.
Yeah,
and then when Sidious wins, I'm going to be brought into this new empire as one of his elite.
Crap, so it
was a really good, a really powerful Jedi Knight. He had four arms, four lightsabers.
Yeah.
I think his
General Kenobi.
I think his goal at the time was to be Dooku's apprentice.
Really?
Yeah.
And he led two clone trooper battalions and tricked them both into thinking that the enemy had taken their armor and led them into battle against each other. It was a really cool episode, actually. Really dark.
I mean, that's kind of stupid of the clone troopers. I mean, you'd be able to spot a droid wearing clone armor.
I mean, from a distance, in the fog of war, if you just see
Oh yeah,
I don't
true.
know. But it was a dark episode. It was really, really
Yeah.
dark.
It was, yeah.
This is why I think I'd love to watch Clone Wars and Rebels, but for me the animations just kind of put me off. They just looked quite childish. But hearing this from you two, that it's actually quite adult and dark at points, then maybe it's never judge a book by its cover.
There is a bit of like weirdness, especially when you come from watching like a live action one. But when you get into it, you kind of it becomes normal and you don't notice it anymore.
Fair. Okay. Fair enough. So let's move on to episode 4. And wow, holy cow. And I just want to point out before we go into this, don't want to influence your opinions, but Rotten Tomatoes, at least last time I checked, rated this episode 100%.
Wow.
That's a big rating.
That is, especially for anything modern Star Wars, yeah.
Yeah, and I haven't done any, research for this, but basically the synopsis is they fight. Let them fight. The Ahsoka, Huyang, and Sabine fight basically with the fallen Jedi and their little henchmen. And Ahsoka confronts Baylan Skoll and loses. Gets pushed off a cliff, and it's a bit iffy what's happened to her, to be honest.
Yeah.
She essentially seems to be having either a forced dream or she dead. She could be dead. She could be dead.
I guess
she's not dead though.
Do you know about the World Between Worlds in Rebels?
No, what's the World Between Worlds?
It's a weird place where time and space don't matter. Very Doctor Who. And you can go through portals and access any point in time and manipulate that event. So in the Ahsoka Vader battle in Rebels, Ahsoka was going to die. Vader was about to strike the killing blow.
Yeah.
But Ezra managed to access the portal into the World Between Worlds and pulls it out of that moment. And
but then how do you get access to this World Between Worlds?
He used the Force with some like mural of like the father, son, and daughter, which is like Force gods from another plane of existence, kind of.
Right. That's pretty crazy, but I've never heard of this. I mean, I guess if I watched Rebels, I would know, but it's never in any of the movies.
It's very controversial amongst fans because it means you can just change anything.
That's a bit bullcrap. I mean, you could go back if you could go back in time, like Qui-Gon Jinn kills Darth Maul. Imagine how different Star Wars would have been.
Yeah.
Well, probably not that different if Qui-Gon Jinn killed Darth Maul, but what if the Rebels had lost the Battle of Endor or something?
Yeah, but it also has some interesting, so basically Ezra went in there to save his master, Kanan. Kanan sacrificed his life to save basically what was rebellion at the time.
Yeah.
And Ahsoka was like, if you save him, he died protecting you guys. If you pull him out of that moment, everyone would die.
Yeah.
So it does hold some interesting questions as to who you save and what the consequences are from saving them if they are sacrificing themselves to save a lot of other people.
Right, okay. Yeah, I guess so. How is it that Ahsoka fell off that cliff and somehow entered into that? Does that power she knows somehow?
That's unexplained. The only way into it is the portal in Rebels, which got
unless Ezra brought her into it, potentially.
What, but he's somehow watching what's going on from a distant galaxy?
I feel like it should be in another galaxy and not be able to reach anyone. I think I have no clue.
Whatever, Ezra and Thrawn have been in the same galaxy the whole time, just laughing like lol, these idiots. They've just gone to like some random galaxy where they're going to find nothing.
Sitting up as a pub, like just watching everything and shit and being like, oh, well, at least we're here. I'm glad I'm not involved in this.
Yeah, let's leave them to it then. So yeah, that's where Ahsoka, and of course, in this plane, she meets Annie. No.
Oh my God.
So great moment, like, I quite like it how they brought Hayden Christensen back in. I have a bit of an issue with this CGIing people to look young.
I was to mention the CGI was a bit uncanny valley for me.
Yeah, it was a bit weird. It looks like bad plastic surgery.
It's funny because they did it really a bit badly in Mando season 2, but they did it really well in Boba Fett for Luke.
I didn't see Luke. I thought they had an actor on it. They just looked like Luke, but it was actually CGI for his face.
Yeah, I think they employed someone who did a really good YouTube video where he demonstrated that he could do it better than
Disney. Yeah.
Lol, that's jokes.
But yeah, it was a bit uncanny valley, but it was so cool to see him though. Like, really cool.
Yeah, a good cliffhanger to end the episode on. Because I didn't know about this plane of existence thing. I assumed, when you die as a Jedi, that's where you'd meet the other Force ghosts out there. And this is Anakin in his purest form because he's redeemed himself by this point. Yep. So she's actually talking to Anakin Skywalker. But would there, at the end of the episode, you heard a bit of Darth Vader's tune. So is it going to be good Anakin or is it going to be bad Anakin?
So I watched this YouTube video and it's very interesting. Like at the end of Return of the Jedi, when he's a Force ghost, he has both hands again. When you see him in episode 4 at the end, he still has the robotic.
Oh,
so
right.
He might not be quite redeemed. He might be another alternate reality Anakin from a different universe, or could be anything. Bob Wells is just basically it's like a Doctor Who.
So this could actually be a random Anakin.
It allows
like one of the comics I did read that was like a Darth Vader comic, which is canon, was that he was on Mustafar and he was like in some kind of like meditation, and then he had this device where he actually broke the plane of like death.
Broke the plane of death.
Literally, and was then able to see, I think this previous Sith who was focused on immortality basically imbued their soul, which Sith love to do is put their soul into like devices. So if someone holds it, they then can possess that person.
So that mask thing. Yeah.
So then what happens is then he then sees his full potential. And like in that comic book, he basically kills the Jedi Council like with ease, defeats Mace Windu, defeats Yoda, defeats Sidious. And then I think through that whole process, he sees his life, and then he sees like Padme. So then the Sith basically says that, oh, you could have all of this. But then I think he starts to realize that, no, I'm Vader, and this is who I am. So I think there is also like there's different planes of existence within Star Wars. So you've got like the plane of like where the Force ghosts are.
Yeah.
So like where Yoda was in what you see where Obi-Wan is at the end of episode 6. And then some people are thinking that there is also a plane for Darksiders as well. So like, originally George Lucas said that Sith would never live on after death, like Force ghosts for Sith.
Yeah, you never see. Oh, actually, you do see them in Rebels in Clone Wars.
So originally he said that they wouldn't because they were filled up with so much hatred and they wanted to constantly stay in the world that they're in.
Yeah.
So that's why they always wanted to like extend their lives beyond a period of point.
Yeah.
But it kind of feels like they've kind of changed that. So like one of the plots allegedly for like the 9th film was that Luke and Snoke would be on the other side of death and they would be battling it out to try and then one of them would then come back, and then Snoke would come back into existence and he would be the main threat for the 9th film. And then some fans were like, that would have been better than having like Sidious just
somehow Palpatine has returned.
That leaked script.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah, it's almost like the 9th film was a complete disaster.
No, the 9th. Well, this isn't another conversation, but the 9th film was only shit because the 8th film fucked it up.
Yeah,
the 8th film. Yeah,
you can't kill your antagonist halfway through a trilogy.
A different director as well. I know it's kind of a poison chalice, and I guess because I think it was J.J. Abrams for Force Awakens and it was J.J. Abrams for the 9th film, wasn't it?
He wasn't meant to be. They brought him back in late last minute.
And he's like, "Oh, thanks, guys, great. You left me this dog's breakfast to work with."
Yeah, because you haven't got a baddie anymore. What do you do with that?
Yeah,
like Kylo Ren's
somehow Count Dooku has returned. Okay, so that's that. What else goes on? Sabine Wren, her dilemma. Like at the start of the episode, it's like, Ahsoka's like, should I be worried about you? And Sabine's like, no, it's cool. I'm good. And it's like, oh, right. It's predictably that obviously she's going to have this issue later on. But it's like, sometimes we have to make the right choice regardless of our personal feelings.
Yeah, Ahsoka's very arrogant in that. She was like...
But this is the problem with the Jedi. Like, they think you can just block out your thoughts and passions,
But that's why they kidnap kids when they're like 4 years old, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You can train them up in their own way. Like if someone like Sabine is hot-headed, a Mandalorian, a warrior, very close attachment to Ezra. Yeah. Like she's not going to be like, fine, I'll never see Ezra again. We can leave him there to rot. Like she's gonna want to try and save him.
Yeah. Like just the two different doctrines. So the Jedi take children when they're young, so they haven't experienced the dark side of the world or the universe. So like there's that childhood innocence where they think everything good's gonna happen. They take them in then. Because then if they're then too old, like for example with Anakin, and also with other, so probably with Sabine as well, is that they then have seen the dark side of the world. So then at times it's like, no, the greater good isn't always the best option. So that's why like majority of the Sith are when they're a lot older. Like Count Dooku was like in his 60s when he converted to like the dark
Yeah, he's a
side.
Jedi Master as well, wasn't he? Yeah.
And it was like, that's the reason why they don't want to train people of a certain age, because it's like, you've seen the dark side and the darkness of the galaxy, and now we're going to train you with all these force powers.
It's called brainwashing. Yeah, exactly. It's like brainwashing, is it? When you're younger, you're a bit more susceptible to ideas, aren't you? With age and experience, you're kind of stuck in your ways, aren't you?
Yeah, especially if you form attachments and you love people, you want to save them, and you think like, I can just tap into the dark side and have power instantly to save this person.
Okay, here's a question for you. If you existed if you were force sensitive, which side of the force would you fall on?
I mean, my current self is going to be dark side.
We don't need to get all moral about this.
Dark side for sure, because you can't. I think adults can't help it. Like instantaneous power
and passion.
And
yeah.
Right at that point, you're gonna choose the easy path, right?
Yeah.
You know, and arguably there's some good reasons for that. Like for example, one of the Sith's motto is, through strength I will gain power. Through power I will break free of these chains. And you know, I guess if you're stuck in a bad situation, power will set you free from whatever you find yourself in. What about you, Josh? What would you say?
I'd probably have to agree with D on this one, because I think it's the temptation is just too strong. Like, as an adult, like some Jedi who've converted to the dark side, some of them it's been like, oh, knowledge, I want to know everything. And then when they learn like the dark side, they realize like the different powers they can use and manipulate. And like, as people say, knowing everything can also be a bad thing, and knowing too much can be a bad thing.
Yeah.
And then you've got like the Jedi who are like, I'm trying to save people, but I don't have enough power.
Exactly, and they repress their own emotions.
But there's this path that can grant me power to save those, like with Anakin, those who I actually love.
Yeah,
and then that's why they try and keep you from attachments with the Jedi's, because then if you're kind of like try and make you emotionless, so therefore it's like, oh, something's happened. Well, that's the way of the Force. We now must move on. But then it's like, to Dee's point, it's too much of a temptation. Yeah. It's like if you had like if you had the Infinity Stones and you could use them, nearly every adult would use it. Like no matter how much it would corrupt the person, like it did to Thanos, and also warped his mind a bit, especially when he started to think that he could be a god with the stones. It's like absolute power corrupts absolutely, as they say. Yeah, it's the dark side of the Force, and it's like that's why most Darksiders are turned when they're adults, or I think like Darth Maul is like the only exception, that he was trained from a young age to be a Sith.
So even Palpatine was potentially a Jedi starting off.
So what happens was he had his abilities, but I think he tried to hide it. So one of the abilities that Sidious had when he was young was that he could hide himself in the Force, so the Jedi didn't know. And also, he was basically like a maniac from birth, and was like kind of like abused by his father.
That's bad.
Probably not good. Yeah. Probably not good.
Cancel every moment.
His dad wanted him to be like, oh, take up the family business, but he was like, I don't really give a rat's ass about the family business. I want to think about power.
That's a relatable story.
And I want to think about power and also talk about knowledge. So then Plagueis basically picks him and talks to him, and his dad says, you can no longer speak to Plagueis. And then Plagueis is like, well,
creepy.
I have all this power. Are you going to do what your dad does? And guess what he does? Guess what Sidious does?
Kills his dad?
His whole family. So basically he's like, wow, I want all this power, they're going to keep me behind. Instead of like a normal person who would just run off with Plagueis, he was like, you know what, I'm going to kill my whole family, therefore I have no more attachments and I can fully focus on gaining power.
Well, yeah, I mean, you guys we're just talking crap about the Jedi Order and how repressing your emotions is wrong and temptation, but God, I mean, it's the dark side for a reason. That's pretty evil. You don't have to kill your whole family. So I think I would fall in, and I know it's not canon before you have a go at me, but I'd say Grey Jedi, because there is no darkness without the light. You know, I think if you suppress your emotions too much as a Jedi, then I think stuff like this will happen. You know, like, for example, Anakin falling to the dark side, try and save those he loved because so much bad happened to him. With Sabine Wren asking her, like, we've got to make the bigger, greater good decision. And it's just not good to repress your emotions, I think. But naturally also, evil must be stopped at every turn. So too much darkness is bad as well. There needs to be balance brought to the Force.
Yeah, I think Mace Windu has a little bit of dark.
Yeah, he did.
He can pull from the dark side. But I think it takes a lot of character to
pull yourself away from that edge. And I think like in some of the like Legends continuity, you had people who were on the brink who were like, I'm kind of light but also a bit dark, and then their ability of the Force dropped because of their unsurety. So like if they were, so like for Ahsoka, she's assured in who she is that I'm walking this specific path. It might lean into the dark and lean into the light, but it's most focused on the light. But then certain Sith, like for example, Darth Bane, when he was heading towards his path to the dark side, he hit a plateau because he wasn't sure of how far he would go. So another issue with the dark side is that it tempts the person, but then if the person starts to pull away, they then need to pull towards the light, or they start to then lose that potential on the dark side.
Right, I see.
So that's also then the manipulation of the dark side, is that either you try and fix yourself and head towards the light, or you have to push further towards the dark side.
Yeah, and just get eviler and eviler looking with those weird eyes.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing in the comics of Darth Vader, where he was pulling towards the light slightly, and Sidious sensed it. So he chopped off all his limbs again and dropped him on Mustafar again. And made him like reconstruct himself basically without using the Force.
Oh my god!
Just to make him more angry and
like even on that point, George Lucas did this on purpose. Like Anakin doesn't get his yellow eyes until he kills the Trade Federation.
Right. Okay.
Not when he kills the younglings, because he was saying that when he kills the younglings, he sees it as a necessity, but it's something that he's not happy to do. But when he's killing the Trade Federation, the people who have caused him anguish and pain, the loss of his friends, the whole situation the galaxy's in, he's actually having pleasure in doing it. So that's when his eyes turn yellow.
No, right, okay.
So it's not just like doing a bad task makes you Sith. So for example, if someone
is passionate,
so if someone is reluctantly doing something that's wrong, that doesn't fuel the dark side. It's the actual fact that enjoyment.
Yeah, because I guess he didn't hate those kids. Yeah. I mean, he seemed like he liked kids.
I mean, if you notice, the same with like Dooku, he never had Sith eyes for forever. Like in any of the.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's a good point. Actually, I never noticed that. So anyway, going back to episode 4.
After that 1 hour tangent.
So, lightsaber duels, they were great in this, weren't they?
Amazing,
yeah. I particularly liked Baylan Skoll's like stance, like how he fights, like more of a heavy,
like a tank basically.
Yeah, he's a big boy, isn't he? Like the way he fights Ahsoka, and Ahsoka really struggles with him. Like he's.
What I don't get is why didn't Ahsoka use her normal form and both her lightsabers?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess maybe 2 lightsabers is good against fighting many enemies, maybe. But I guess
she used it against Marok in the first or second episode.
Oh, did she?
Yeah.
Well, screw Marok. He was a Sith.
But she only used one against him in the last duel with him.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Because maybe she should do that more often.
Her agility is what I would think is her strong point compared to like a tank like Baylan.
Yeah. So cool though. And Baylan's dialogue with her as well, like, how inevitable. Yeah, really cool.
Everyone in the Jedi Order knew Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah. Anakin said had great things to say about you. And she's like, actually, he had heard nothing from him about you. Yeah. Ahsoka, that was rude. She's very disrespectful. Like some old man, and she's like, oh, you're nothing. Jeez. And then obviously Shin Hati versus Sabine Wren. That was pretty cool. One thing I'd like to point out is, Sabine's like blasting at them with her dual pistols. Seems like, it's quite easy to deflect a blaster at someone, deflect the shot right back into them. But both Shin and Baylan suddenly can't do that for some reason, which is a bit silly. But, it's just minor detail.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point, actually. That happens all the time.
Yeah, especially, with Jedi doing that. I see that a lot. I love the fight between Shin Hati and like Shin's like, Sabine tries to use the Force on her, and it's like a little slap. And she's like, Shin's like, you have no power, and then she just shoots the rocket out of her wrist. I was like, that's jokes. Power in other forms, you know. Yeah.
I wonder if I still don't know if she actually used the Force, whether she just reacted instinctively, thinking she was using the Force.
Well, so it's just twitch like that.
Yeah, because she hasn't demonstrated any Force ability.
But you did hear a little like thing in the sound.
I can't remember, to be honest, but
fair. There was a little like sound, like when Shin's choking. You know, when Sabine's like gets manipulated by Baylan to surrender over the map. And then Shin gets up and starts force choking her. You hear like a thing in the background.
Okay.
I
feel like Shin's more evil than Baylan. Like she seems more vicious. Baylan has to, like, call her off, basically.
Well, the actor that plays her, I think, is it Ivanka Sakano? I'm probably killing the pronunciation of that. She said like she's more driven. She's more of a seeker. You know, and you see how she acts. She's always like running. Whilst Baylan's kind of brooding and standing around.
I think Baylan's still got a lot of Jedi left in him.
Yeah.
Whereas,
I
think Shin, I assume, wasn't around for the Jedi Order, right?
Yeah, but
so she's never been trained as a Jedi, and like even in the end of Rebels season 1, when the Inquisitor actually switches sides, so it still shows that. So the Inquisitor, you know, the head Inquisitor that's in Kenobi, he switches sides and then saves the day, and then you kind of see like, so that was still in him because like the training when he was young. But
what does he save?
I think. I think I'm mixing up the seasons. When they go to, I think after his death, when they go to like the yellow.
Oh, well, that was like I think that's more like a Force vision, wasn't it?
Okay.
From back when he was a Jedi Sentinel, because he was a Temple Guard.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
He was.
Yeah. So that's cool. But I read this online that basically Baylan and Shin or Patty, I don't know, but their names are based off Norse mythology about wolves, like some, and the wolf that Shin's based off is supposed to be more of a seeker, etc. And then
it's like
Marok is Arthur, a knight, one of the knights of the Arthur Round Table, but he was like a wolf, something related to wolves.
So
basically,
Marok is a knight that got corrupted by a witch.
Right. Okay.
Shin and Skull are wolves. One chases the sun, one chases the moon. What that means, I don't know, but
jokes. Oh, that's good to know. I was glad that they put that little detail on. It's nice to have like some sort of weird mythology in it, relating to real life. And then what else went on in this episode? At the end, Morgan Elsbeth just saying, "Ignore them." When the rebel fleet's coming, that was so rude. They could have courtesy shot.
It's one of the rare times where the evil people win. Like they hyper.
Oh come on! Empire Strikes Back, the First
Revenge of the
Order.
Sith
There's a lot of
well.
times when the evil people win. You call yourself a Star Wars nerd? Shocking.
Temporarily win. Yeah, I suppose. Yeah.
Last time we have you on the show for a Star Wars thing, mate. stick to House of the Dragon.
Let's leave now.
Yeah.
But I do get what you're saying. Like recently, it's kind of feels like they basically lose a lot of the times. But I think like it's just because like the time period that they're showing is the New Republic, and because it's the New Republic, and you know further down the line they are going to win and establish something.
Yeah, that's true.
Then start to see it. But then if they were like doing more like stuff around the Andor period, you'd probably see more Empire winning. Or potentially if they did something like, one of the things fans are clamoring for is to try and get Tom Hiddleston to play a young Palpatine.
Oh, I've seen that, yeah.
And that they could do a
that.
TV series of like him playing a young Palpatine and him manipulating the Senate, and also training up, potentially training up as well, Darth Maul. And like that would be like the bad guys winning most of the time. And I think fans would love it because then it's like the subterfuge that Palpatine also like instigates throughout that whole time.
It would be great to actually see a Star Wars show that is from the perspective of a Sith. Or
they do have one coming out called Acolyte.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, the issue I have is that the Sith doing Sith stuff should be R-rated because that's how evil they are.
Yeah, it's the nature of the dark side.
But if you have a show about the Sith and it's a PG-13 or a 12, you're like, how good can it be if you're not going to show how bad the Sith are?
Yeah, we want to see some younglings getting killed, man. Like, we need some serious stuff in that show, because that's,
we did see a child getting killed, didn't we? I think on the where that ship was. I think it was the end of Revenge of the Sith when one child like stood up against all the clones and then he got shot down.
Yeah, he did. Yes.
Yeah, we had one child killing.
Yeah,
wow.
When he was, he had his lightsaber, was taking them out, and then was like,
God, that's a bit, no, they usually avoid showing that on TV.
I think George Lucas just like, you know what, let's just give him one.
Yeah, give him
It
one.
was supposed to be a lot worse, and then it was like,
Yeah.
like, you need to dial it back a bit.
So I think even like in 18s, like they still avoid doing stuff like that, because obviously just the moral idea of it is quite dark, you know.
Actually, that reminds me of a scene that got cut out of Attack of the Clones, where when Boba Fett picks up his father's helmet, his head was supposed to fall out.
Oh,
Yeah.
trauma, bloody hell. So, what do we think is going to happen
I
in
have
episode
no
5?
idea. So I didn't read any of the rumors, any of the stuff online. I tried to avoid all that.
Yeah, that's
So
better
for me,
that way.
Anakin was just a complete curveball. I was so shocked.
I knew it was going to happen because I saw Caden Christensen had been cast in a series. I read up
So I
on that.
avoided everything.
But then it could be a flashback as well, like a flashback to her training. That, like, you know how they did in like Kenobi.
Yeah.
Flashback again.
Well, the fact that it's World Between Worlds and it's meant to be a place where time and space doesn't exist makes me feel like there's more to it.
Hello there.
So I actually have no, like, I can have a theory, but I literally have no idea. I have no idea what's going on.
Well, we're probably going to see Thrawn in this. I mean, you saw him in a trailer, so you know he's going to be in it.
Yeah.
Ezra, I don't know. What if you find out Ezra's dead? What if you find out Ezra's going to the dark side? I thought Marek would have been Ezra, but I guess that was, it just been.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That brings us back to what we were mentioning. Who Marek was, because I think is an animated Night Sister magic kind of.
Really?
Yeah,
right.
because when in the Clone Wars, when Oppressor gets killed by Sidious and all that green stuff comes out of him,
his body.
yeah, it's very similar to how Marek died.
Right. Okay.
So I think it was just an animated corpse, kind of.
Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah. So what they do to Savage Press is like, if you see it, if you see like pictures of him, he's like Darth Maul yellow, but on steroids. It's like he was like a normal sized
He was
human being.
really skinny
But
before.
then they infused him with like dark Sith, Night Sister magic to basically make him stronger and bigger as well. So I think, your point, when he died, he released all of that when he got killed by Sidious.
Ah, right. Okay. That makes sense.
Is
Okay, so that solves Marek. It's definitely not Ezra.
I thought it'd be someone more interesting. But
So, what do you think is going to happen to Ahsoka? Is she just going to wake up like next to the beach or something from the cliff? She got pushed
no, but
off.
she is in a different plane of existence, the World Between Worlds. That is a place to be in.
So do you think she might maybe find a door into this galaxy and see Thrawn and Ezra, possibly?
Possibly, yeah. And it'd be funny if she's the reason why Thrawn comes back.
Yeah.
That's a good point. If there should be portals to other galaxies in there, technically, right? If space doesn't matter. Because I was expecting somehow like she would attach herself to like one of the ships going through the hyperring, or something. But it was just the baddies that went through. But yeah, she's there.
Oh, and Sabine, and maybe we'll see what happens with her as well, because potentially she could fall to the dark side. Although no, she's been in the Rebels. I feel like that would be quite a big character arc if she goes to
But she's barely force sensitive. I mean, she falls to the dark side.
she can't be the dark side. Yeah, good point. Good point.
Doesn't reach the
well done on that
requirements.
one. Yeah, well done on that one. Actually, it's pretty mean. You sound like Huyang now. Jeez, Dave, rude. Okay, so some quick fire questions to finish things off. So, what was the working title of the Ahsoka series whilst they were filming it? Was it A, The Sacred Jedi Texts? Was it B, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Thrawn? C, Rebels Part 4? Or D, Stormcrow?
Stormcrow, I think.
I want to go B because it's George Lucas.
Yeah, that's right. It is Stormcrow. Yeah.
Because I was thinking that would be way too much tongue in cheek.
Why do they have a different, such an odd working title?
Yeah, I can't see. I don't get the reference.
Because it's, I mean, maybe there's a lot. I know a lot of people that work in the movie industry, like making props and stuff, and they had to sign non-disclosure agreements.
Yeah.
But it was pretty clear they announced that they were making a Ahsoka TV show. So maybe it's just they didn't want people to come, like super nerdy fans coming to the set, taking photos of everything, spoiling stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah, possibly that's why. Okay, cool. I think you know this one already, D, and you should know this, Josh. Mary Elizabeth Winstead, who plays Hera Syndulla, is married to which other Star Wars actor? If you know it already,
I know.
D,
I'm not going to answer.
Yeah.
I know it. Yeah.
I don't know.
Hello there.
Oh.
Hello there.
Yeah.
Hello there.
Ewan McGregor. She's married to him. Yeah.
And you know what's also similar?
Hello
you know
there.
the person who plays Kanan, who is Freddie Prinze Jr. He is married to Sarah Michelle Gellar, and she plays one of the Inquisitor sisters.
Oh, really?
Oh, right, okay.
in Rebels, yeah.
That's cool.
Okay. Oh, everyone's got their links. This is how you get cast in a Star Wars movie. Just marry someone who's in it. Because, you know, Ewan McGregor's daughter was in Obi-Wan, wasn't she? He's like, do you want to buy some death sticks? Or something.
I found out very recently that Kaden, I think this is right, if I remember rightly, Kaden was the Padawan at the very beginning of the Bad Batch episode.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is quite like nice little bit of continuity there.
Finally, some good continuity. Okay, last question. Ewan McGregor, who, as you know, played Obi-Wan,
Hello there.
has a brother that served in the Royal Air Force. What was his military call sign? Don't look at that, dear.
I know this already.
Yeah, you
as
know this,
well,
okay.
yeah.
It's hilarious.
It's really funny.
Now it really makes it hard now.
It's such a great call sign.
There's a whole BBC News article about this at one point.
Really?
Yeah,
Actually,
that's what I found out.
Wow.
Obi-2 Kenobi?
Yes, well done.
yes.
Nice.
Okay. Because I was thinking, like, it must be that, because, like, him being his brother, being number 2.
Yeah, good one. Well done. Well, maybe it wasn't that hard for them to come up with. They knew it straight away. Okay, final question. This doesn't have an answer. What do you think Thrawn and Ezra have been getting up to in this other galaxy?
I think
there's no answer to this.
I think it depends, because then if it's how much are they going to take away from like the expanded lore, and if they're in the same galaxy with that alien species that Thrawn is trying to save the galaxy from. So if so, they might actually be working together.
It could be. That would be an
like,
interesting twist. Yeah.
Like if, for example, let's say World War II, a German soldier, a Soviet soldier, an American soldier were taken to, let's say, a whole other world, and they're the only 3 humans there, and it's full of aliens, and those aliens are going to attack Earth. They're eventually going to then come together like, you know what, forget the differences. This is more important. And especially because I think later on in Rebels, you started to see Ezra mature. Like from this con artist kid who only thinks about like Sabine, and also becoming powerful as well, to be actually being someone who basically sacrificed his life because he didn't know if he'd survive or not to save the rebellion.
Well, also he sort of fluctuated with the dark side a little bit, didn't he?
Yeah.
So
because then
with
Darth Maul,
tried to seduce him to become his apprentice. Then he had the Sith holocron, and he was starting getting really like.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah, it was he brushed the dark side like quite closely, but Kaden pulled him back. But in terms of the invading race that the Chiss are trying to avoid, isn't that in the Star Wars galaxy but on the outskirts? Or I thought this is the first time a new galaxy has been introduced in Star Wars.
So in Legends, the Yuzhong Vong, which the Grisk have taken over, are from another galaxy.
Okay.
So it depends like how they wish to bring. They've said that the Grisk are in canon because they're mentioned in like the Timothy Thorne books,
the new ones.
And the question is, are they in that galaxy? If so, potentially Thrawn and Ezra working together. And also, this Thrawn is less malicious and is like more apt to. He's also more forgiving. Like the Thrawn from the original books was like a straight up asshole, if you really wanted to say it. Like, trying to kidnap kids, murdering whole planets full of people just to suit his means. And I think this Thrawn is just as manipulative, just as clever, but is like has his own unique purpose and his own unique thing that he's working towards. And I think the one that was in the the expanded universe, I think he'd fully moved in and been like, you know what, I'm going to be in charge of the Empire. I'm going to run it. But Thrawn, like through the books, showed how much he cared about the Chiss ascendancy.
Yeah.
And his own people. So I think that's still a driving factor within himself. And like when he learns the Empire has fallen, like what is the dynamic that, am I then going to move back and care about the Chiss more since the Empire has fallen? Or do we still need to build up a huge empire to prevent the Grisk who are coming sooner or later from invading?
There's also a couple of ancient species in Star Wars, like the initial ones. I can't remember what they're called now.
The Rakata.
Yeah, and there's also the Zepho in Jedi Fallen Order as well, which are ancient but highly attuned Force users.
Yeah.
So potentially they could be involved. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. But also, you've got the whole idea, the First Order is supposed to lead up to the First Order being set up, or at least, that's what people theorize. But then again, the First Order is Palpatine's sort of creation, really, isn't it? And Palpatine's still alive, apparently, hiding on Exegol in the background. So would there potentially be some sort of conflict maybe between Thrawn's plans and his people working with him, like Balin and whatever, and that of Sidious and the First Order? Is the First Order actually just going to be a separate thing, and this is just going to be like a different sort of note to the Imperial Remnant? There's a lot of questions there, actually.
I think like the issue with like the three last films, it didn't paint a picture of the galaxy. It just painted a picture of, this is the First Order, this is what they're doing, this is the rebels. So like the whole First Order and its rebellion could just be like a corner of, actually no, in the 8th film they mentioned that they were almost taken over the whole galaxy. But then the question I ask is, what if Thrawn's, what he's built is separate from the First Order?
Yeah, exactly. This is what I'm thinking. He might not actually be part of that, because you've got the Shadow Council.
Yeah.
But are they the Shadow? I guess it's it's the Mandalorian, so it's between Episode 6 and Episode 7, right? So are they actually going to form part of the First Order, that Imperial Remnant and the Shadow Council, or is what Sidious is doing just completely separate? Because they're very specifically Sith. I don't know. A lot of questions. Final question: do you think Sabine and Ezra are going to get it on?
Yeah, why not?
Well, he did say you're like a sister to me. It's a bit weird, don't you think? But I don't know. Absence makes the heart go.
I hope not. Like those cringy love stories, like when Rey and Kylo Ren kissed at the end of it's no.
That was a long time coming. No. Like when he sees her with his when, they have that weird Force vision where they can talk to each other, and he's got his top off, and she's like, oh Ren, and he's like, hey baby.
No, I hope they don't.
Want to tell me where Luke Skywalker is? Okay, well, we're going to leave it there. But very excited to see episodes 5, 6, 7, 8 coming out soon. Because episode 4, wow, what an episode. And I'm feeling good about this series. And a lot of the reviews are saying that Star Wars is back on form finally after maybe 20 years.
The thing is this way, it feels like episodes. Like sometimes with Mando and with Andor, it feels like a movie cut into pieces in arbitrary lengths. But this feels like it has a beginning and an end every episode. I think that's good, very good for it. And going for it.
Yeah, and they've left it on good cliffhangers as well. Like, episode 4, wow, that was fantastic, and it felt very classically Star Wars. Yeah. So,
and just one
go on.
I think at least with Ahsoka from the TV series, you kind of get a point of you don't know what's going to happen. Because at least I think with for the first season of Mandalorian, you were like, well, he's going to have to still win anyway. But with the point that the First Order does take over the galaxy, the question you ask is that, how soon is it? Is it going to be straight after the Ahsoka series finishes that the First Order then comes to preference, to importance? Or is it that she's going to win, and then the final season she loses, and that's when the First Order just comes out of nowhere? Even at the beginning of episode 7, it was they were trying to convince the New Republic again. There's a threat. You should focus on it. And then New Republic's well, they're just some form of terrorists, remnants of the Empire we don't really need to care about. And then episode 8, it's like they've taken over the galaxy, and you're like, oh, well.
If America was in charge of the New Republic, they'd be like, yeah, we're straight in there. They've got oil. Let's get in there. Let's weapons of mass destruction.
Yes,
let's do it. Yeah. God, this New Republic is so flawed. I love democracy.
Yeah. Speaking of which, about the win-win-win, maybe last season she might lose. Is there any rumors or hints as to how many seasons there might be?
I think that's another thing, because like people are like, oh, Kenobi's just going to be 1, but it's like, no, there is a season 2 for Kenobi.
Really? There'll be a season 2?
I heard that there's a season 2 for Kenobi.
There's nothing else to tell. How can
that's the thing that fans are saying, is like, if there's a season 2, like I can even quickly double check.
Hello there.
I think I've heard Ewan McGregor would like to do one, but I don't think one's been commissioned from what I've heard anyway, but I haven't checked for it a long time.
Hello there.
I just don't think, he can't just leave the planet all the time. Like, he's meant to be looking after Luke, right? That's the whole point.
Hello there.
Yeah, so I'm just looking at this website. There is an update on Kenobi season 2. And I'm like, but what are you going to talk about in season 2? So it kind of feels like they want to, if a season's successful, they will then be like, you get another season and then develop the story further. But I want it to be that with Ahsoka, with Kenobi, and if they're going to do like any other seasons or the continuation of The Mandalorian, is that it's heading towards a key point of no return.
But that's the movie, right? That Filoni's making. That's meant to be wrap up this whole like arc of like Kenobi, Boba Fett, Andor, and Ahsoka.
Well, yeah, keen to see that. I don't know. I wonder if they'll be creating more plot holes with another series of Kenobi.
I don't think there definitely should not be a Kenobi season 2.
I think leave it as it was. It's good to see that sort of reunion fight, but I don't know. Anyway, that's all we have time for today, folks. Dee, thank you so much for coming on again today. You are a resident Star Wars expert, and we would love to have you on maybe for the next Ahsoka chat that we have. Yeah,
100%.
Excellent. And Josh, always a pleasure to have you on. Now that I know you're both leaning towards the dark side, I feel a little cornered here, but what can you do? And of course, we couldn't do it without our wonderful audience. And a little message to you, our wonderful audience, is we've now sort of changed things up on YouTube. We've now got a separate site. And I say we as the Two Maesters. We've got like a separate channel that you should resubscribe to if you get a moment, because we've sort of reorganized something with Pick Up the Mic with Jeffrey, our Supreme Overlord. He's the Palpatine behind the scenes hiding on Exegol. So please give us a resubscribe if you subscribed to us in the past, or if you haven't subscribed before, now's the perfect time to subscribe. And, if you like us a lot, just give our videos a like, leave a comment, say stuff like,
hello there.
And I will say back to you,
hello there.
That'll be a very fun YouTube conversation, right? It's just endless. And yeah, if you really love us, you can always check out our Patreon. You can find a link somewhere below on YouTube, I think. There's never been a link. Well, that's all, folks. And just one final thing I'd like to say to you before we go.
Hello there.
Goodbye.
See you, folks.